summer is around the corner, and if you've clicked on this video, there's a very high chance you're planning on getting your first motorcycle. Now, a motorcycle can be a very bad financial decision, but at the same time, it could be a very good financial decision. This totally depends on your circumstances, and the best I can do in this video is give you all the information on how much it actually costs to own a motorcycle. In this video, I'll go through like tips and like hidden costs that most people don't know about when they get into motorcycling. And hopefully, armed with this information, you can make better choices than I did when I started riding. Let's get into the video. Now, most people assume that the first thing that you should save up for when you want to start riding motorcycles is the actual motorcycle. But that's not it. That is not it. In fact, the motorcycle is like the fourth thing on the list of what you should start saving up for. The first thing you should start thinking about immediately is the training costs. Now, costs for training vary very much country to country and place to place. I've had the privilege of doing my motorcycle exam in 2 different countries, and the difference was exponential. When I did it in Kenya, the driver's training cost me 50 euros. And then plus legal fees, everything came up to about 100 euros. But when I did it in Finland, my driver's training cost me about 355 euros, and I did get that on discount, so usually it is a bit higher than that. And then like the lines with the licenses and the extra fees and the examination costs came together to about 450. Now check online on your government's page. I'm pretty sure they'll have a very proper explanation of what you need to pay and how much it actually costs. An idea on how you can cut costs in this specific section would be if you already have the bike in your possession to train in like a random parking lot that's close to you. The second thing you'll need to plan for is proper riding gear. And riding gear includes a helmet, gloves, a jacket, pants, and boots. So these 5 things are the most important pieces of gear that you need. Now, you need to make sure that like the gear you get is properly rated. So make sure it has the CE rating, or wait, if you're getting a helmet, make sure it has like a ECE rating at the back of the like helmet back here or on the side. My helmet is quite old, so it doesn't have the rating anymore, but that is very important to get. There's so many cheap options out there, especially on AliExpress, Alibaba, and this online websites for helmets, gloves, and all this motorcycle gear. But the problem with those specific gears is they've not been tested, and in the event of a crash, they might not protect you at all. So this is one of those things where I would not really cheap out on and like go like the Chinese or the whatever way. However, huge like tip for saving money, and one that I'm a huge advocate for, is buying second-hand gear. My jacket, for example, I did get it from Facebook Marketplace for about 20 euros, but brand new it would have cost me about 200 euros. So that's 180 euros saved. And if you look carefully enough, I'm pretty sure you can get all the necessary gear for less than what a helmet costs. For the helmet, if you can, I would advise getting brand new, just so that like you can make sure that the padding is still good and like everything is still fresh, and that the helmet doesn't have any like stinkiness inside. But if you do get a good second-hand helmet and you check for cracks and there's a receipt and it's like not more than 5 years old, then you can take the risk. One reason I also hugely advocate for second-hand gear is because you don't know what sort of motorcycle riding you probably focus on. You might buy like a touring helmet and then all of a sudden want to do enduro type of riding. So when you have second-hand gear, it doesn't hurt as much to get rid of it or sell it or do whatever. But anyway, that's a video for another day on gear. The third cost you should think about when planning to get a motorcycle is not the motorcycle. We have not bought the bike yet. It's the insurance. Now, at this point, I'm pretty sure you'll have a list of motorcycles you're interested in. But before you buy the motorcycle, hop online. Usually the insurance agencies usually have like a website where you can get quotes for your insurance. This is one of those things that can really take you by surprise when buying a motorcycle, because some specific models of motorcycles usually have higher insurance ratings when compared to others. I can't speak very clearly on how the insurance situation is in your specific country, but one thing I've noticed with the country that I live in right now is that the younger you are, the higher your insurance usually is, and the faster your motorcycle. So if I bought a 600 Super Sport and not a 650, like the insurance did raise a bit higher. Of course, the longer you ride, the more bonuses you get, the cheaper it gets. But yeah, you should probably check the insurance of the specific motorcycle you want before you buy it. Insurance costs, depending on where you live, are different, but personally, for my Suzuki SFV6, which I have the like full comprehensive insurance for, is about 50 a month or 70 euros a month, depending on like what month it is. So it gets a bit more expensive in the summer and it gets cheaper in the winter. But yes, yeah, that's something I wish I knew. We can finally look into the bike. Now, the sweet spot, in my opinion, is between 2,000 and 3,000 euros when buying your first motorcycle. 2,000 to 3,000 euro motorcycles usually have depreciated enough that they can't depreciate past that. So if you do want to sell the motorcycle after 1 year of riding it, you usually will be able to get back a huge sum of your money. But still, a 2,000 to 3,000 euro motorcycle usually is not a crappy piece of junk like a 1,000 euro motorcycle, you know. Of course, it strongly depends on the size of the motorcycle and the year and all these other things, but 2,000 to 3,000 is a safe space for your first motorcycle. Of course, if you were doing much better, you can get a more expensive motorcycle, or you can get something less than 2,000 if you get a good deal. But I'd advise for 2,000 to 3,000 euros. And on what bike you should get, that's another video. Yeah, so now we have like the license, we have the gear, we have insurance, and we have the motorcycle. The next thing that have to pay frequently is stuff such as taxes and maintenance. So taxes strongly depend on the country you live in. Currently in Finland, we don't need to pay yearly taxes on motorcycles. We only pay it when you import the motorcycle in. But I understand in different countries, you need to pay different taxes per year or per month or something like that. So look into your specific country and like figure out what applies to you. Now that we already have the bike, we need to start talking about consumables. So the things that you need to change every 10, 5, 6,000 kilometers. First off, I'd want to start with the tires, because these are very important. This is what keeps you on the ground. A motorcycle has 2 tires and they last significantly shorter when compared to a car. You'll probably need to change the tires every 10,000 kilometers, sometimes even more often if you ride very spiritedly or if you ride very soft tires. Tires cost about 100 to 200 euros, and depending on the brand, the price can go higher than that, or sometimes it would go lower than 100. Although I would not advise getting the very cheap tires, because the cheapness usually shows. We have stuff such as brake pads, which will probably cost 40 euros for like a set of brake pads. Another thing which you'll need to maintain very often is the chain. This chain needs to be cleaned every 500 kilometers, and some people take you to the shop to get it done, and the shops will charge, I think, about 40 to 50 euros, or even cheaper depending on where you are. But this is one of those things where I think you should learn how to do it yourself. It's very easy, it's very simple, and yeah, it'll save you a lot of money. And lastly, we have the maintenances that everyone expects, such as the oil change if you have a gas-powered motorcycle. And this depends a lot on the type of motorcycle you have. Sport bikes usually need the oil changed much often, so some bikes need it changed every 5,000 kilometers. Some supermotors and some dirt bikes have the service intervals in hours, which complicates it even more. But for most basic motorcycles, you need to change the oil every 10,000 kilometers. Or if you have an SV650 like me, you need to change the oil every 6,000 kilometers and the oil filter every 12,000 kilometers. You also need to adjust the valves in the engine every 24,000 kilometers. This work done at the shop will cost you by the hour. Where I live in Finland, most shops charge 60 euros per hour for work. So a simple service such as the oil, the brakes, and everything will come to around 180. Now, as I wrap up on the topic on maintenance, I do not take my motorcycles to the garage. I've been riding for 3 years, and so far I've been able to do everything by myself. Motorcycles are significantly simpler compared to cars in how they work, And stuff such as changing the oil filter just needs me to unscrew this right here and open this bolt down here, and I'm set. So I would highly advise downloading a manual from the Facebook group of your motorcycle or from the Reddit page and work on your motorcycle. Like, do the little simple things and save the money for, new passion projects such as a new exhaust or whatever you want to do. Lastly, I want to talk about something significantly more boring, and that's the safety of your bike. So, bike locks, or if you live in a place where the winter is strong, like winter storage for your motorcycle. This usually costs about 100 euros a month if you decide to take a storage, but good bike locks will put you back about 60 euros. This is not something you should cheap out on because losing your bike is not a fun experience. So, to answer the question of how much it costs to own a bike, if we divide the costs into two, where one is the starting capital, so how much you'll need to start riding, and what's the recurring expense, it would look something like this. With training fees of about 400 and spending about 200 on gear if you go the second-hand route, and you get a bike worth 2000, then your starting capital will be about 2600 euros or dollars or whatever. Of course, if you choose to buy new gear, then the price increases. Then we look into like the recurring costs, so service items, tires, insurance, and storage. And if you're buying a new set of tires every year, assuming you ride about 12,000 kilometers a year, that's 200 euros a year for each tire, 100 for each. Service items, so oil, filters, all this other stuff for about 400. Then insurance, where you pay about 50 a month, that would come to 600, and storage for about 400 if you have a 4-month winter period. Your costs per year would come to about 1,600 euros. Not very bad, especially if you can find loopholes in this area, such as if you work on your bike yourself, then it'll cost you 400 euros for service items, but if you take it to the shop, the price will increase significantly. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps you start riding, and leave a comment down if you have something that you'd want to know. Oh, hi. You're still here. Have you subscribed to this channel? Have you subscribed to this channel? Have you subscribed to this channel? Have you subscribed to this